The neighborhood always went still after 10. Lawns watered themselves, porch lights clicked on like clockwork, and the sky over the cul-de-sac looked washed out, as if the stars refused to linger. The Morgan house blended in perfectly among the others. Same trimmed hedges, same double garage, same mailbox that clanged whenever the wind hit it wrong. Nothing about it suggested sleepless nights. But by 12:47 a.m., the first whisper began. Evan Morgan, 5 years old, lay curled on his dinosaur sheets, breathing softly. Then his lips parted, and he mumbled something, half a word, the tail end of a dream. His mother, Claire, had grown used to checking on him. His sleep-talking had started 2 weeks ago. Strange, but harmless. Tonight, though, the second voice answered. It came from somewhere near his bed, low, melded with static like an old radio struggling for signal. The tone was unmistakably adult, too deep, too warped to belong to anyone in the house. "Evan," it breathed. "Wake." Claire froze in the hallway, one hand on the doorframe. She held her breath until the room went silent again. Evan shifted, sighed, and whispered something back, like a child answering a question no one had asked. By morning, everything looked painfully normal. The sunlight was bright, the kitchen smelled of burnt toast, and Alex Morgan dismissed Claire's account with a tired rub of his eyes. Sleep phenomenon. Kids make weird noises. But when he set up cameras in Evan's room, 2 angles, high resolution, audio boosted, nothing captured the voice. Each night, Evan whispered. Each night, the unseen thing answered. And each morning, the footage showed only the boy mumbling alone in the dark, replying to empty air. On the 4th night, when Claire pressed her ear to the door, the voice shifted. Its whisper dragged long, syllables drawn out like stretched fabric. "Claire." She staggered back. Evan's breathing didn't change. His little hands lay still on the blanket. And somewhere above them, in the ceiling, behind the walls, or in the spaces a house forgets, it sounded like something faintly rocked back and forth, wood tapping slowly, patiently, as if welcoming a rhythm long abandoned. The attic door, which neither parent remembered ever noticing, waited in the hallway ceiling, dust marking the edges, like an old wound reopening.
The discovery happened on a Wednesday evening, the kind of evening where the sky outside was flat and bruised, promising a storm that never quite arrived. Claire was folding laundry in the hallway when she felt a faint draft, cold enough to raise goosebumps along her forearms. She followed the air upward and noticed it, a thin, square outline in the ceiling, as if someone had drawn it with a ruler in dust. An attic door. But the Morgans didn't have an attic. At least, that's what the realtor said, and the inspection, and the blueprints they'd been given and shoved into a kitchen drawer months ago. Alex fetched a ladder, muttering something about old houses and missed details, though their home wasn't even that old. When he pushed the panel upward, a rain of dust came down in soft gray flakes. The smell that drifted out was stale, like forgotten books, and something older beneath it, something metallic. "Hello?" Alex called into the dark space above them. Something shifted, not loudly, just a gentle scrape, the kind of sound wood makes when touched by weight. Claire's throat tightened. They climbed up slowly, phones in hand for light. The attic was narrow, low-ceilinged, and cluttered with things that shouldn't have been there. Cracked picture frames, a stack of yellowed newspapers, children's blocks scattered as if dropped mid-play. And at the far end, facing the wall, was a wooden rocking chair. Small, child-sized. Its runners rested on an oval in the dusty floor, as if it had been used recently, rocked until it carved a shallow groove. Next to it sat an old cassette recorder, the kind with a single red button and scratches along its plastic casing. A tape was already inside. The recorder clicked softly as they approached, like a heartbeat out of rhythm. "It's junk," Alex said, though he sounded like he was trying to convince himself. But when Claire reached toward the cassette recorder, the device whirred to life on its own. The wheels spun, static crackled. Then, a voice. A man's, low and distorted, but not the same one that whispered to Evan. "Come back upstairs. You were almost here." Claire's hand shot to her mouth. Alex fumbled with the recorder, slamming the stop button, yanking the tape out as if it were burning him. The attic went still again. They left everything where it was. But that night, after Evan was tucked into bed, after the lights were off and the house settled into its usual quiet, Claire heard the rocking chair. Soft, even, measured, as though someone small was sitting in it, swaying patiently, waiting for something that had been promised long ago. Something the house remembered. Something their son had begun answering. The next morning felt strangely heavy, as if the air in the house had gained weight overnight. Evan seemed fine, cheerful even, eating cereal and humming tunelessly. But every few seconds his eyes drifted toward the ceiling, like he was listening for something only he could hear. Claire tried to ignore it. Alex failed to. "We're calling Dr. Henderson," he said, stuffing toast into his mouth with more force than necessary. "We'll get a proper evaluation." Claire nodded, though her mind kept circling back to the attic, the forgotten toys, the rocking chair, and the tape. Especially the tape. When Alex left for work, she found herself pacing the living room, glancing up toward the hallway ceiling every time the house creaked. Finally, she gave in and went to retrieve the cassette. She didn't know why. Curiosity? Fear? A need to confirm she hadn't imagined that voice? She placed the recorder on the dining table, the cassette already inside, her finger hovering over the play button. The moment the tape clicked on, static filled the room like a thick fog. Then the voice came again, guttural, warped, like someone speaking through a mouthful of gravel. "Come back upstairs." The hairs on Claire's neck lifted, but then another sound, faint, a whisper layered beneath the man's voice, higher pitched, smaller, a child's voice, a boy. "Where are you?" the child murmured. "It's dark." Claire froze. Her heart hammered painfully, like it was trying to escape her chest.
The tape crackled, a long dragging sound, wood against wood. She realized it was the rocking chair. Then the two voices overlapped. The man, "Almost here." The child, "I can't see. Show me." Claire slammed the stop button so hard it almost snapped. Her hand shook as she shoved the recorder into a drawer, burying it under napkins and stray batteries. She didn't want it where anyone, especially Evan, could find it. But later that afternoon, as she made lunch, Evan wandered into the kitchen and peeked into that very drawer. "What are you looking for, sweetheart?" Alice asked, trying to keep her voice steady. He shrugged. "Something's calling me." Claire's blood ran cold. "Who's calling you?" He tilted his head, listening. "He's lonely," he said softly. Claire crouched to his level. "Evan, there's no boy." But Evan smiled faintly, almost dreamily, and whispered, "He said you used to hear him too." A wave of nausea hit her, and then, before she could say anything else, the ceiling above them gave a gentle, familiar creak, the sound of a rocking chair swaying back and forth and back again, as though someone upstairs had just started listening too. By Friday, the Morgans' house felt different. Too quiet in some corners, too loud in others. The air vents hummed with an uneven rhythm, and the lights flickered every time someone walked beneath them. Even the dog from next door had started barking at their windows, as if sensing something they couldn't. Evan spent most of the day at the kitchen table, a stack of crayons scattered around him. Claire didn't think much of it until she noticed he wasn't drawing the usual stick figures or dinosaurs. He was drawing the attic. Page after page, the slanted beams, the dusty floor, the rocking chair, always at the center. But what made Claire's breath hitch was the way he drew the child in the chair, not with a face, not even with a proper shape, just a silhouette, a small dark outline with long fingers that looked wrong for a child. Claire gently placed a hand on his back. "Honey, who is that?" Evan didn't look up. "That's him." "The boy you heard?" "No, the other one." Claire's stomach tightened. "What other one?" He finally turned toward her, and the look in his eyes didn't belong to a 5-year-old. It was distant, unfocused, as if he were looking through her. "He watches the boy," Evan said. "He tells him what to say. He tells me, too, when the house is tired." Claire couldn't find her voice. Eventually she managed a whisper. "What does he tell you?" Evan pressed a black crayon so hard the tip snapped. "That you shouldn't have closed the door." Before Claire could ask what he meant, a dull thump echoed from upstairs. Not the attic this time. No, this came from inside the wall. A slow, deliberate knock, then another, then scratching. Evan didn't react at all. He slid off the chair, walked to the hallway, and placed his palm against the drywall, as if greeting an old friend. "He says there's a space here," Evan murmured. "A little hallway they used to use. He says you forgot it." Claire grabbed his shoulder and pulled him back, trembling. "Evan, stop. There's nothing." Before she could finish, a faint whisper seeped through the wall. Not the warped man's voice, not the child's. This whisper was something else, deeper, older, with a slow rhythm like breath filtered through stone. Claire. Her knees nearly buckled. Evan smiled at the wall with a calmness that chilled her. He says the boy wants to show you something on the next tape. Claire stumbled backward, shaking her head. No more tapes. But Evan whispered, almost lovingly, "It already waited long enough." Behind the wall, something dragged. It sounded like a hand trailing along the wood inside, searching, feeling its way towards them. And downstairs, inside the kitchen drawer where she had hidden the cassette recorder, something clicked softly. A tape starting to rewind itself. Dr. Henderson's office sat in a beige strip mall between a nail salon and a tax place that never seemed to close. Inside, everything was soft. Soft lighting, soft chairs, soft voices. Framed diplomas lined the walls, all of them insisting that what happened in people's heads could be explained. Evan sat on the rug, turning a wooden puzzle piece over in his hands. He wasn't solving the puzzle, just spinning the same corner, over and over. "So," Dr. Henderson folded his hands, "you're hearing a voice when he sleeps." Claire and Alex sat side by side on the couch, shoulders almost touching, but not quite. "It's not just that," Claire said. He answers it, and there's an attic we didn't know we had, and tapes, and—" Henderson smiled politely, the way people smile at a badly told joke. "Children Evan's age can have parasomnias, complex sleep behaviors, sleep talking, sleep walking, even full conversations. Sometimes parents misinterpret normal sounds as external voices. You're under stress, new house, new routines." "So we're imagining it?" Alex asked, a little too sharply. "I'm saying your brains are trying to make sense of fragmented stimuli. You're recording him, correct?" "Yes," Claire said, "but the voice never shows up on the footage, only in real time. Microphones distort. Your memory fills gaps. It's very common." He slid a brochure across the table. "Childhood sleep disorders," smiled up at them. "With some sleep hygiene and maybe a mild medication, he'll grow out of it." Claire stared at the brochure as if it might bite. On the drive home, rain smeared the windshield into streaks of gray. Evan hummed in the back seat, pressing his forehead against the glass. "What did you think of the doctor, Bud?" Alex asked. "He doesn't hear very well," Evan said. Alex glanced at him in the rearview mirror. "He listened to you?" "No," Evan whispered. "I mean, he doesn't hear upstairs." They stopped at a red light. For a moment, Claire thought she saw something in the reflection of the back window, a second, smaller face beside Evan's, featureless, just a pale blur leaning close. When she blinked, it was gone. That evening, Pastor Reed from the small church down the road came by at Claire's hesitant request. He was younger than she expected, with tired eyes and a Bible worn thin at the edges. "I appreciate you seeing us," Alex said, obviously uncomfortable. "We're not big church people." Reed nodded. "You don't have to be. You said something felt wrong in the home?" He walked the rooms quietly, pausing under vents, resting his hand on the hallway wall where Evan had once listened. When he stood beneath the attic door, his shoulders tensed. "How long has that been there?" he asked. "We just found it. It wasn't on the blueprints." He stared at the ceiling a moment too long. "Some places," he said slowly, "were built over older things. Borrowed land, borrowed structures, sometimes borrowed promises." Alex sighed. "Look, Pastor, we just need you to bless the house or whatever you do. Tell us everything's fine and we'll—" "It isn't fine," Reed interrupted gently. "Whatever's here, it's not simple. Not just a spirit. Not just a memory." His voice lowered. "It feels old. Older than this house. Older than this town. Like something that's learned how to wait." Claire's throat felt dry. "Can you remove it?" Reed hesitated. "I'm not sure it was ever put here in the first place. It might have attached itself to someone, not some place." Evan padded into the hallway in his socks, eyes already half-lidded, though it wasn't bedtime yet. He looked at Pastor Reed, then at the ceiling. "He doesn't like you," Evan said calmly. "Who doesn't?" Reed asked softly. Evan's lips curled into a small, almost apologetic smile. "He says your words are too young for him." At that exact moment, from the attic above, they all heard it. A slow, warped whisper, threadbare and intimate, sliding between the boards like breath. "Claire." This time, the voice didn't sound far away. It sounded like it was standing right above her, leaning down, mouth to the wood, finally learning how to say her name clearly. By Saturday afternoon, everyone agreed on one thing. They needed to get out of the house. Just for a night. A hotel, a relative's place, anywhere that didn't have an attic whispering their names. Claire packed quickly, tossing clothes into bags with shaking hands. Alex loaded the suitcases into the car, glancing over his shoulder every few seconds as if expecting someone to be standing behind him. Evan didn't pack at all. He sat at the bottom of the stairs, feet dangling, watching his parents rush. His expression was blank, almost bored, like someone forced to wait for something inevitable. "We're going for a little trip," Claire said, brightly, too brightly. "Won't that be fun?" Evan tilted his head. "He says you won't make it far." A chill crawled down Claire's spine. "Who says that?" "The man." Evan tapped the stair with his heel rhythmically. "He says the house isn't done yet." Alex grabbed the keys. "Let's go, now." They piled into the car, slammed the doors, and Alex turned the ignition. Nothing. Not even a click. He tried again. Dead. Then the interior lights flickered, once, twice, as if responding to some unseen pulse. A slow creak echoed from the house behind them. Claire turned toward the sound, heart pounding. The attic door inside the hallway had swung open by itself, though all the windows were shut. Something tapped from within, once, twice, 3 times, soft, deliberate, like knuckles brushing the wood. Evan leaned forward between the seats, almost cheerful. "He says Mom wants to hear him." Claire squeezed her eyes shut. Alex cursed under his breath, grabbed his phone, and tried calling for roadside assistance. No signal. The screen flashed, then went black. Inside the house, the tapping stopped, replaced by a gentle, rocking sound. Back and forth, back and forth. The attic chair. Except, and Claire knew this in a way she couldn't explain, the sound wasn't coming from above anymore. It was closer, inside the walls, moving slowly toward the front door. Evan placed his hand on the car window, fogging the glass with his breath. "He says you don't need to leave," Evan whispered, smiling faintly. They returned inside because there was nothing else to do. No working car, no phone signal, no neighbors home that night. The house felt warmer than before, almost humid, like it had been breathing heavily in their absence. Claire tried to steady herself. "We stay downstairs. We don't go near the attic. We just wait until morning." But Evan walked straight to the kitchen drawer, the one where she'd hidden the recorder. Before Claire could stop him, he pulled it open and retrieved the cassette player with surprising care, holding it as though it were something fragile and precious. "Sweetheart, don't touch that." "It's okay," Evan said softly. "He fixed it for you." "Fixed what? The tape? The recorder?" She took a shaky step back. Alex reached for the recorder, intending to grab it from Evan's hands, but the device clicked by itself, like an invisible finger had pressed play. Static burst through the speaker. Then a voice spoke. Not the warped man, not the little boy. A third voice. A woman. And the sound of her tone, her breath even, her pauses, made Claire's blood turn cold, because it sounded exactly like her. "Help me. Please, don't leave me alone up here." Alex stared at Claire, horrified. That's your voice." But Claire shook her head. "No, I never recorded anything. That's not me." The tape continued. "He's coming. He knows you're listening. Don't open the door, Claire. Don't let him—" The voice cut off sharply, as though someone had placed a hand over her mouth. Silence. Then the rocking chair creaked again, louder now, as if directly above the kitchen. Evan didn't react to the sound. He only pressed the recorder tighter to his chest, eyes half-lidded. "He says the woman on the tape isn't real. He made her. For you." Claire felt her legs weaken. "Why?" "So you'd understand," Evan said simply. "So you'd know he can be anyone he needs to be." The recorder clicked again, this time switching to a new section of the tape. The voice that came next was unmistakably the warped man, closer, clearer than ever. "Claire, come stairs." The tape stopped, but the voice didn't. From the top of the hallway, the attic door groaned as something pressed down on it from the other side. Then, in the quiet, a single word drifted down the stairs, no longer distorted. Perfectly clear. The attic door didn't fully open. It just hung there, tilted, trembling, like something on the other side was testing how thin the wood had become after all these years. Alex grabbed Claire's arm. "We're leaving. I don't care if we run." But before they took a single step, Evan walked ahead of them, slow and calm, as if following a familiar voice only he could hear. He stopped at the bottom of the stairs leading up to the attic hatch. "He says you don't remember the first family, but the house does." Claire's breath hitched. "The first what?" Evan lifted one finger and traced an invisible line along the wall. Long, gentle, almost loving. "The people who lived here before you. The boy who stayed too long. The mother who didn't listen." Alex shook his head. There were no people before us. The house was empty. No, he emptied it. A cold ripple passed down the hallway, raising every tiny hair on Claire's arms. And then, as if responding to Evan's words, the house creaked, not like settling wood, but like someone walking through it. A slow, dragging step from somewhere behind the walls, followed by another step from deeper inside the structure. Claire pressed her hand to her mouth. Alex, there's no space inside those walls. But something was definitely moving, shuffling, sliding, almost searching. The lights flickered overhead. For a moment the hallway drowned in darkness, and in that instant Claire saw a shape behind the wallpaper, a silhouette of a small head and narrow shoulders pressed flush against the surface, as if standing on the other side of paper-thin skin. When the light snapped back on, it vanished. Something thumped once above them. Not violent, just deliberate, like a reminder. Evan looked upward, eyes soft, voice barely audible. He says the boy didn't disappear. He just never left the house. Claire stumbled backward, shaking. What happened to him? Evan turned to her, and for a brief, terrifying moment, his expression matched the faceless outline she'd seen in his drawings, empty, observing. He stayed, Evan whispered, and then the house made room. The attic door creaked again, lowering another inch, shadow spilling down the stairs like spilled ink. Claire grabbed Evan and pulled him close, heart racing. But Evan didn't resist. He says, Evan murmured into her shoulder, that if you open the attic, he'll finally show you what the boy became. The attic door hung even lower now, its hinges groaning like something heavy leaned against it from above. Dust drifted down in slow spirals, catching the hallway light like falling ash. Alex swallowed hard. I'm not opening that. I'm not. But the door didn't wait for him. With a soft wooden sigh, it eased open by itself. A thin, draftless cold poured down the stairs, not the cold of weather. This was the cold of old spaces, forgotten rooms, things left too long in the dark. Claire clutched Evan tighter. Don't look, she whispered into his hair. But Evan lifted his head anyway, eyes wide, pupils dilated almost black. He's ready, he said. We should be polite. Something shifted in the darkness above them. Light footsteps, fast and light, scampering across wooden beams. Then a dragging sound, long and scraping, like fingernails trailing along the rafters. Claire felt her legs weaken. There's something up there. A soft tap responded. Then another, like knuckles knocking in a childlike rhythm. Alex stepped forward, voice shaking. I'll check. Just stay with Evan. He climbed 2 steps, then 3, holding the railing as if expecting it to melt under his hand. The attic space above was pitch black, except for the faint glow of the hallway lamp. Do you see anything? Claire choked out. Alex didn't answer right away. He squinted, leaning forward. Then he froze. Claire, he whispered hoarsely, there's a kid. Claire's breath caught. A living? No, Alex swallowed. He's perched on the rafters like an animal. A shape dropped into view, small, crouched, limbs too thin, fingers too long. Its skin was pale as paper, stretched over angles that didn't belong on a human child. Its hair hung in dusty clumps, and its face, it didn't have one. Just smooth skin where features should be, as if erased. Claire screamed before she could stop herself. The faceless boy cocked its head toward them, sensing the sound rather than seeing it. Then it crawled forward on all fours, fast and silent, its limbs bending at wrong angles as it moved toward the opening. Evan didn't flinch. "He's ready," he said calmly. "The boy wants his mother back." The faceless child leaned down toward them, waiting.
For a moment, everything was silent. The faceless boy hung from the attic opening like a puppet, waiting for permission to move. Its long fingers curled over the edge of the wood, its skin stretched tight, almost translucent, pulsing faintly with something that wasn't a heartbeat. Claire backed up slowly, dragging Evan with her, but Evan slipped free again, quiet, deliberate, as if following some instinct older than himself. "He says you forgot him. He says you promised." Claire shook her head violently. "I've never been here before. I never—" But another voice joined in, a man's low whisper, clear now, so close it felt like it brushed her ear. "You did." The lights flickered, and the boy began to climb down, not like a child, like something learning how to copy one. Each limb bent wrong, each motion delayed by a half-second, as if the creature was imitating movement it barely understood. With each step, the house groaned, as though the walls strained to contain something that had waited too long. Alex grabbed a chair leg like a weapon. "Stay back!" The faceless head tilted toward him. Then it opened its mouthless face and spoke with Alex's voice. "Put it down." Alex stumbled backward in horror. The boy dropped from the ladder and landed without a sound. The floorboards didn't even protest. It stood there, tilting its blank face, as if sniffing for Claire again. Evan walked toward it, completely calm. "He's done pretending. He wants to show you what the house kept." Before Claire could pull Evan away, the faceless boy reached out and touched the wall. And the wall opened. Not like a door, more like peeling skin. Behind the drywall was a narrow corridor, too narrow for anyone grown. Dust swirled in the air, carrying a cold that didn't belong to this world. Inside the corridor sat something small, a real boy, or what was left of him. Dust-colored clothes clung to a skeleton, curled in on itself, as if he had fallen asleep decades ago and never woken. A rusty toy car lay beside him. His hand, tiny, brittle, still reached toward the attic. Claire choked on a scream. Evan whispered, "He waited for his mom, but she never heard him." The faceless boy stepped aside, presenting the body like an offering. Behind Claire, the voice whispered again. No distortion now, no static, just a man speaking in a tone almost gentle. "I made him a new one." Claire turned and froze. A shape was standing behind her. Human height, human outline, but its skin was shifting like wet clay learning how to imitate her features. And it was very close to getting them right. Evan smiled faintly, something ancient flickering behind his eyes. "He says you don't have to be scared. He only keeps what's abandoned." Claire grabbed Evan, pulling him toward the door. "We're leaving, now." The faceless boy lunged, but not at Evan, at the clay thing behind her.
and the two shapes collided, merging, tearing, dissolving into something that didn't know whose form to take. The house shook, dust rained from the ceiling, a scream, layered, adult and child, ripped through the hall. Claire didn't look back. She grabbed Evan, Alex seized the doorknob, and together they ran outside into the freezing night air just as the lights inside the house went violently out. Behind them, the attic door slammed shut. Then the house fell silent. Completely. They never went back. The police found nothing in the attic. No rocking chair. No recorder, no hidden corridor, and no remains. The house was declared structurally sound, bought again, lived in again. But sometimes, only at night, neighbors said they heard something faint coming from behind the walls. A rocking sound, a child's whisper, then a man's, calling a name no one inside the house had, calling it gently, patiently, as if whoever lived there now might eventually forget something too.